Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. As we continue with Part 8, Ceremonies of the Order 2 from Cryptic Masonry, a Manual of the Council by Albert G. Mackey. Section 2. Annual Installation of the Officers of a Council. On the night appointed for the installation, the Council being opened in the select degree, a past thrice illustrious, either of that or some other council, will take the chair, and another past thrice illustrious or some other officer will present the thrice illustrious elect to the presiding officer and say, "Thrice illustrious, I present before you companion, who has been duly elected to serve this council as its thrice illustrious Grand Master for the ensuing Masonic year, and who now declares himself ready for installation." The presiding officer then addresses him as follows: "Thrice illustrious, I feel much satisfaction on the present occasion in installing you into the office of thrice illustrious Grand Master of this council. It is a station highly honorable to all those who diligently perform the important duties annexed to it. But before investing you with the appropriate insignia of your office, I shall propose certain questions to which I must request your unequivocal answers. 1. Do you solemnly promise that you will use your utmost endeavors to correct the vices, purify the morals, and promote the happiness of your companions? 2. That you will not suffer your council to be opened unless there be 9 select masters present? 3. That you will never permit more than 27 companions to take an active part in the initiation of any candidate into the mysteries of the select degree? 4. That you will not suffer any person to pass the circle of perfection in your council in whose integrity, fervency, and zeal you have not entire confidence. 5. That you will not acknowledge or hold intercourse with any council that does not work under some regular and constitutional authority. 6. That you will admit no visitor into your council who has not been regularly and lawfully invested with the degrees conferred therein until he has been formally healed. 7. That you will faithfully observe and maintain the bylaws of your council and the constitution and general regulations of the Grand Council under whose authority it is held. 8. That in the government of your council you will administer justice tempered with mercy. 9. That you will pay due respect and obedience to the grand officers when duly installed, and sustain them in the discharge of their lawful duties. Do you submit to all these charges, and do you promise to observe them faithfully? Response: I do, Presiding Officer. Your answers are satisfactory, but before proceeding further in your installation, it is necessary that I should administer to you the obligation of office. The presiding officer then administers the following obligation to the thrice illustrious elect. I do solemnly promise that I will serve this council as thrice illustrious Grand Master for the time that I have been elected, that I will perform all the duties appertaining to that office to the best of my abilities, and will support and maintain the bylaws of my council and the constitution of the Grand Council of. The presiding officer will then cause the thrice illustrious elect to be invested with the badges of his office and addresses him as follows: Thrice illustrious Grand Master, in consequence of your cheerful acquiescence with the charges which you have heard recited, and with entire confidence in the integrity of your character as a select master, you are now invested with the appropriate badges of your office, having been elevated by the voice of your companions to the highest station in their gift. You are now to assume the functions of that office. It is your duty to set an example of diligence, industry, and fidelity, to see that the officers associated with you faithfully perform their respective duties, and that the interests and reputation of your council are not endangered by imprudence or neglect. The important trust committed to your charge will demand your earnest exertions for its faithful performance. As the representative of the wise King of Israel, it will be your duty to recite the secret traditions and illustrate the moral principles of the order, to cherish the worthy and hold in due veneration the ancient landmarks, by a frequent recurrence to the bylaws of your council and the general regulations of the fraternity, together with a constant study of the legends and symbols of the order, as explained in the history and lectures of the several degrees, you will be enabled to fulfill the important obligations resting upon you with honor to yourself and advantage to the craft. And may He, without whose approbation all our labors are in vain, give wisdom to your counsels and strength to your exertions. The presiding officer then inducts the newly installed thrice illustrious into his chair, who, for the remainder of the ceremony, acts as the installing officer. Each of the subordinate officers is presented to him with the same formula that is recited above. The same obligation with the necessary variation of title, which had been taken by the thrice illustrious, is administered, and the charge read to each of the officers by the thrice illustrious, after which the newly installed officer takes his appropriate station in the council. Charge to illustrious Hiram of Tyre. Illustrious companion, you have been elected to the second office in this council, and you are now invested with the appropriate badges of your office. The duties of the important office to which your companions have elevated you will require your constant and earnest attention. You are to occupy the second seat in the council, and it will be your duty to aid and support your chief in all the requirements of his office. In his absence, you are to preside and perform his duties. Although the representative of a king and therefore elevated in rank above your companions, you should never forget that in all the duties which you owe to God, your neighbor, and yourself, you and they stand upon the same level of equality. Let the bright example of your illustrious predecessor in the Grand Council at Jerusalem stimulate you to the faithful performance of every duty. And when the King of Kings shall summon you to his immediate presence, from his hand may you receive a crown of glory which shall never fade. Charge to the principal conductor of the works. Companion, as the third officer of this council, you are invested with the appropriate badges of your office. It is your duty to sound the silver trump at early dawn and eve of day, when the sun's first and last beams gild the mountaintops, to announce high noon and proclaim the time of labor and of rest. In the absence of both your superior officers, you will be called upon to preside. And as the interests of the council should never be permitted to suffer through a want of intelligence in its officers, you will allow me to urge upon you the necessity of being always prepared and qualified to meet such an emergency. Having been admitted to the fellowship of kings, you will be appropriately reminded that the office of a mediator is one of great responsibility as well as honor. Let it therefore be your constant care to preserve harmony and unanimity of sentiment among the members of your council. Discountenance whatever may tend to create division and dissension among the companions in any of the departments of Masonry. And as the glorious sun, when at its meridian height dispels the mists and clouds that obscure the horizon, so may your exertions tend to dissipate the mists of jealousy and discord, should they ever unfortunately arise in your council. Charge to the treasurer. Companion, you have been elected treasurer of this council, and I with pleasure invest you with the badge of your office. It is your duty to number and weigh out the shekels of the sanctuary and to provide for the helpless orphan. The qualities which should distinguish a treasurer are accuracy and fidelity. Accuracy in keeping a fair and true account of the receipts and disbursements, fidelity in carefully preserving the property and funds of the council, and in rendering a just account of them when required. Your interest in this council, your attachment to the craft, and your known integrity of character are a sufficient guarantee that the duties of your office will be faithfully performed. Charge to the recorder. Companion, you have been elected recorder of this council, and I with pleasure invest you with the badge of your office. It is your duty to keep a fair record of all things proper to be written, to receive all monies and pay them over to the treasurer. The qualities, therefore, which should recommend a recorder are correctness in recording the proceedings of the council, judgment in discriminating between what is proper and what is improper to be written, regularity in making the returns to the Grand Council, integrity in accounting for all monies that pass through his hands, and fidelity in paying the same over to the treasurer. The possession of these qualities has designated you as a suitable companion for this office, and I do not doubt that you will discharge its duties with fidelity and diligence. And when you shall have completed the record of your transactions here below and finished the term of your probation, may you be admitted into the Grand Council above and find your name recorded in the Book of Life Eternal. Charge to the Captain of the Guards. Companion, having been elected Captain of the Guards, I present you with the badge and appropriate implement of your office. Guard well your post, and suffer none to pass it but the select, the worthy, and the faithful. Be ever attentive to the commands of your chief, and be always near at hand to see them duly executed. Charge to the conductor of the council. Companion, you have been elected conductor of the council, and I invest you with the badge of your office. It is your duty to attend to the preparation of candidates and to see that the council is duly guarded. In the discharge of the duties which you have assumed, be fervent and zealous. Let uprightness and integrity attend your steps, and let justice and mercy mark your conduct. Charge to the steward. Companion, you have been appointed steward of this council, and I now invest you with the badge and implement of your office. The duties of a steward in a select council are in general the same as those which devolve on a tiler in a lodge of ancient craft masonry. And as you are furnished with a sword to enable you to guard the council chamber and the entrance to the secret passage against intruders, so should it symbolically serve as a constant admonition to us to set a guard at the entrance of our thoughts, to place a watch at the door of our lips, to post a sentinel at the avenue of our actions, thereby excluding every unworthy thought, word, and deed, and enabling us to preserve our consciences void of offense toward God and man. Charge to the members of the council. Companions, from the nature of the constitution of every society, some must rule and others obey. And while justice and moderation are required of the officers in the discharge of their official duties, subordination and respect for their rulers are equally demanded of the members. The relation is reciprocal. The interests of both are inseparable, and without mutual cooperation, the labors of neither can succeed. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Let therefore brotherly love prevail among you. Let each be emulous of the others in all good works, in promoting peace and unity, and in striving to see who best can rule and best obey. Let the avenues to your passions be strictly guarded. Let no curious intruder find his way into the secret recesses of your retirement to disturb the harmony which should ever prevail among the select and chosen, and mar the respect of your companions and the commendation of your own consciences. The presiding officer who had installed the thrice illustrious elect then makes the following proclamation. In the name of the most puissant Grand Council of the State of, I hereby proclaim the officers of Council number to be duly installed with the grand honors of Masonry by 3 times 3. The grand honors are then given and the ceremony of installation is concluded. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.